The DC Studios CEO just clarified his past comments about Zack Snyder. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Please like, share and subscribe for more. Ever since Gunn took over DC Studios, Snyderverse fans have been more vocal than ever against the filmmaker. It even led to a select sect starting trends to get him fired twice, once shortly after his hiring and again after the 10-project slate announcement. The Snyderverse fans have made particular efforts in a movement to sell the Snyderverse to Netflix, to continue the franchise at Max's rival streamer where the director is currently developing multiple projects. DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn responded to a Zack Snyder fan, clarifying his past comments about the director's potential superhero future. I have to say, this has got to be the wackiest hashtag ever since 1. Netflix hasn't expressed any such interest, although we've discussed other stuff, and 2. Zack hasn't expressed any interest and seems to be happy doing what he's doing, and yes, we too have talked. Gunn added how Snyder contacted him to express his support about the DCU reboot slate, adding how the filmmaker appeared to be really happy with the work he is now doing building the Rebel Moon universe at Netflix. Back in February, DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn offered an update on director Zack Snyder's potential superhero future, and now, the filmmaker has been pushed to clarify his comments after they were seemingly contradicted. Earlier in the year, Gunn responded to a Twitter user sharing the viral "Sell the Snyderverse to Netflix" hashtag. Not only did he confirm the streamer hasn't shown interest in such an acquisition, but he also revealed Snyder hasn't expressed any interest either during a Q&A portion of April's Full Circle event via Geekosity. Snyder was asked whether he would be interested in continuing his DC saga into the planned and abandoned Justice League sequels, to which he noted he would in whatever medium or whatever way that would be able to happen. I love the world, and obviously I've not put a small amount of effort into this mythology, and we have done not also a small amount of work towards the eventualities of these scenarios might be. And so, yes, would I be interested in whatever medium or whatever way these ideas would be made? Of course I would. Yeah. And in the meantime we forge ahead and we do what we do. He contacted me to express his support about my choices. He's a great guy. Again, he seems really happy with the massive world building he's doing now. The topic has been a dicey one among Snyderverse fans ever since given the divisive DC filmmaker has, in fact, revealed during public Q&As and interviews that he would be willing to return to finish his Justice League epic. I would think it was obvious that I meant Zack hadn't expressed any interest to me in our discussions, so you can quit spamming this on every single post. Responding to a Threads post from Gunn, user Shay Lonsdale highlighted the DCU boss' previous words stating Snyder hasn't expressed any interest, alongside a clip from the Full Circle charity event. Replying to the Q&A clip, the DC Studios co-CEO clarified his comments, noting how he meant Zack hadn't expressed any interest to him in returning to the superhero franchise. DC Studios is now diving headfirst into the new soft rebooted DCU with only a select few Elseworlds projects set to continue alongside it. Meanwhile, Snyder's focus continues to be over at Netflix, where he is focused on expanding his sci-fi Rebel Moon and post-apocalyptic Army of the Dead universes. Looking at the budgets for Snyder's 3 DCU movies, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League, the costs ranged from $225 to $300 million. So, finishing out this story in its originally intended form would be no cheap endeavor, never mind the difficulties involved in bringing back the cast. While Zack Snyder once had major plans at DC that included 2 Justice League sequels, the plot details of which are definitely something, those plans now appear to be in the rearview mirror for both the director and the Blue brand, with the Snyderverse tale seemingly crushed in favor of a reboot. If the filmmaker were to ever come back, it would likely have to be through a DCU project, although that may not even be something he would be interested in. But since he reached out to Gunn to express his support of the new DCU slate, Snyder clearly remains as big a DC fan as ever, while also seemingly holding on to a solid relationship with the studio and its filmmaking boss. Granted, the chances of Snyder reuniting with Warner Brothers to develop his Justice League sequels are close to zero, despite the online movement. Perhaps the only likely possibility for seeing the story conclude would be through a comic storyline or maybe an animated project from Snyder. As of now, it certainly appears Snyder is content and busy with the work he is doing building out multiple of his own franchises at Netflix. Zack Snyder pitched a TV show to Netflix, but the streaming giant ultimately turned it down. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Please like, share and subscribe for more. However, the filmmaker's interests are not limited to the big screen. According to him, he has an idea for a television series that streamers just won't pick up. Rebel Moon, release, cast and everything we know. Zack Snyder Netflix. Zack Snyder wants to make a TV show for Netflix, but his idea is allegedly too taboo. Following the long-awaited release of Zack Snyder's Justice League, the former DCU director has kept busy with a new slate of cinematic projects, such as Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon Part 1, with Part 2 expected to release this year. Yeah, we've talked about it a lot. I mean, nobody wants Fountainhead, but that's what I wanted to do. I pitched them Fountainhead, because I've written this super adaptation of that book. I think it would be amazing, but no one wants to make it because they think it's taboo. Ayn Rand is taboo. For reference, The Fountainhead is a 1943 novel written by Russian-American author Ayn Rand, which follows an architect who refuses to give in to accepted, conventional standards and pressures. When Zack Snyder was asked by Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan Experience whether he ever considered doing a Netflix series, Snyder answered, "I pitched them Fountainhead, but no one wants to make it." Given that Snyder is known for his trademark style, and fans fought for him to release his Justice League vision, it is easy to understand why such a story speaks to the filmmaker. Snyder went on to explain how Ayn Rand arrived at her story for The Fountainhead and why it is one thing he had that he has always wanted to do. When Rogan asked why Ayn Rand is considered taboo, the director admitted some think the book's a fascist propaganda piece, but to him, it is a direct comment on making a movie. I don't know. She's taboo amongst the intelligentsia because they think she's a fascist and they think the book's a fascist propaganda piece. That's not why I like the book. I happen to like it because, to me, it's a direct comment on making a movie, right? A movie about an architect who won't make the buildings everyone wants them to make, and the struggle he goes through to get the buildings made the way he wants to make them. Of course, I like that. I'm sure there's plenty of movie directors that don't like Fountainhead, but I just think it says so much. Atlas shrugged. Fair. I mean, you can play with that. I'm pretty exclusively a Fountainhead fanatic. Also, because it's melodrama too. It's the most melodramatic thing ever. It is worth noting that Zack Snyder had not always planned for his adaptation of The Fountainhead to be a TV show. Ayn Rand wrote Fountainhead in direct response to being noted on a script that she had written. She had been studying this movie about skyscrapers and she kept submitting versions of the script and they kept noting her until it was unrecognizable. And then she was like, this is what happens to work. It gets noted till it disintegrates or disappears. So yeah, that's one thing I had that I've always wanted to do. But I don't know that the world will allow that. As to why the writer and her work is supposedly a touchy subject, Zack Snyder admitted he's exclusively a Fountainhead fanatic. No rush is right and nothing new for the filmmaker. Back in 2018, Deadline reported that The Fountainhead was supposed to be Zack Snyder's next project. But it goes